This is a bonus episode recorded by my friend Ashley Bond of Wisdom Dental Billing. If you're new to billing or need a refresher, this is going to be a very valuable listen. She talks you through the in-house billing cycle and then discusses my favorite topic, clinical documentation. Check the show notes for a free resource, the Clinical Notes Blueprint, just for my listeners. Enjoy the episode.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Nobody Told Me That. I am Ashley Bond, co-founder and chief dental billing officer at Wisdom Dental Billing. Teresa has been such a champion for dental teams and offices, and I'm honored that she let me hop on the mic today to share something that's near and dear to my heart, the team sport of dental billing. How's your team doing? And if you've been listening to Teresa for a while, you know that she never sugarcoats the truth about insurance and billing specifically. It is an administrative burden now more than it ever has been. So who is this podcast for? This is for you. If you do all your billing in-house, if you do it all by yourself, if you've been hesitant to outsource, or maybe you currently outsource it all, this podcast is for everyone. Teresa always tells it like it is, and I love that because I grew up seeing these realities firsthand. So quick backstory. Who am I? I grew up in my dad's dental practice. And at one point, my dad was a dentist. One of my sisters was a hygienist and another worked with me up front. And I was helping with insurance and front office duties. We were literally all working together in the same practice. And yes, there was drama some days, but also it was a lot of fun. Some of the best days of my life. So when I say that I've seen every billing nightmare that you can imagine, I literally do mean it. So those experiences have shaped me. And honestly, they're the reason why I co-founded Wisdom. We are a full-service dental billing company because it has become such an administrative burden on our dental teams. And because I knew if my dad's office was struggling with insurance and billing, the other practices, they must be drowning too. And I cannot believe how right I was. So today I want to talk about how to get claims paid faster. And spoiler, it's a whole team effort. So we are going to cover why billing isn't just a front office problem, how communication and clinical notes can make or break your claims, the crushing administrative burden that we are all feeling now more than ever, and most importantly, how outsourcing can actually free you up. And along the way, I'm going to share a free resource that we built called the Clinical Notes Blueprint, plus a special discount just for Teresa's listeners. So let's get started. Here is the biggest myth, that billing is just a front office problem. No, it is not. And that could not be farther from the truth. Billing really is a team sport. Everybody from the back office to the front plays a major role in this. So an example of this, if a hygienist is scheduling the patient's next preventative exam and prophy, they don't check the benefits. It's one every 6 months. Schedule that patient a little early. That claim very well may get denied. Or if the assistant forgets to ask the doctor or record how old a crown was, you're going to get that crown stuck in denial. And then the front office looks like the bad guy when the claim bounces back and the patient gets an unexpected bill. Side story here. I remember in my dad's practice, we had a patient come in. It was an emergency patient. They had a very old crown, must have been 20, 30 years old. Very old, that was causing them pain. So my dad removed it. It needed to get a full crown replacement. Great. Procedure went great. Patient was happy, but he forgot to note and ask how old that crown was. So yes, insurance denied it. We ended up having to eat the cost because we didn't ask that patient how old that crown had been. Now, we could have guessed, but we didn't get that information from the patient. That patient wasn't a patient of record. They didn't answer our phone calls. Once that crown was seated and that patient was gone, it was impossible to get a hold of that patient again. So After that, we literally would use a sticky note and put it on my dad's computer that would say, ask how old is your crown? Just as a reminder. It was a very hard reminder to ask that information. But now you don't have to wait on sticky notes. You don't have to put sticky notes all over like we used to. Add that to your clinical notes template. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you call your practice management software to ask them how to create templates for your clinical notes so it prompts the doctors to answer certain questions. So if you're doing a crown procedure, you can customize it for every crown. It should prompt you about the replacement. What was the initial date, or to ask the patient that information, and then making sure that we're making these clinical documentation notes while the patient's in the chair. So worst case, if we're reminded, oh, we need to get how old the crown was, the patient is a new patient of record, we can ask when the patient is still in the chair. We might need to redo the way that we do our processes and our clinical notes, but I promise you it pays off in the long run if you have the same system for every procedure every single time. And when you have that communication happening in real time, the assistants, they're prompting the doctors, the hygienists, they're noting those frequencies, and the front desk is double checking all the clinical notes. You cut down on the denials, you cut down on resubmissions, and you actually get paid on the first try. So let me say this very clearly. Getting claims paid, it's not one person's job. It is everybody pulling together to get your claims paid on time the first time. Now let's zero in on one of the easiest ways to strengthen that chain, which is in clinical documentation and notes. Now, before I go into what the best clinical notes should be, let's talk about what documentation on the claim form should not be anymore. We are finally going to say no to narratives. There was a day, and I did this too, when I had my Microsoft Word document, and it had for the crowns what the remarks section would say for that crown to get paid. Crown due to decay or crown due to fracture. We used to copy that and paste it, and it would go out with every crown would have the same stock narrative that we would reuse over and over. Long gone are those days where we're using a copy and paste template to describe the treatment that was performed. Now, insurance companies, some are requiring, not all, but are requiring to see the clinical notes for the claim. You might also get an appeal that is asking for the clinical notes. So you need to make sure that anything that's on that claim form, which means anything in the remarks section that describes why a procedure was done, needs to be in your clinical notes. And so we're going to say no to narratives because all clinical notes should be customized for the patient. Doesn't mean that we don't have templates. Like I talked about before, you should have clinical note templates based off procedure codes, but it should prompt you to put in the patient-specific information. So it should prompt you so that you're putting in that it was, mesial distal decay. It was, a fractured lingual cusp. It should make you be very detailed. Recurrent caries, recurrent gross caries. You need to be very detailed in your clinical notes because that's what's going to make the claim be paid. And it's going to protect you always with liability, making sure you're documenting everything that was done. So it's going to be for your safety, but it's also going to be so that you get paid on time. So we're not going to say yes to narratives anymore. We're only taking our documentation directly from our clinical notes. So what should the clinical notes look like? You probably heard of SOAP notes before. It stands for subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. It's simple but powerful. Now, if SOAP notes are new to you, or if you currently are not using SOAP notes for your clinical templates, what I want you to do is I want you to download our free ebook called the Clinical Notes Blueprint. It's literally a plug and play SOAP templates for every common procedure from exams, crowns, perio, implants, all laid out. so that you can write clinical documentation that actually supports the claim. So you're going to find that at withwisdom.com/Teresa. That's withwisdom.com/TERESA. Now, let's go talk about what SOAP notes are. So, the S for SOAP is subjective. What was the patient's complaint? So this a lot of times directly comes from the patient themselves. Was there pain, sensitivity? What's their history? Then we go into the O, which is objective. What do you see? The radiographs, is there swelling, pocket depths, the restoration age? This is going into what you see. A is the assessment. What is your diagnosis now? Is there decay, infection, bone loss? And then P is the plan. What was the treatment done today? And what are you recommending next? So this SOAP note can then be used for every type of procedure. So for instance, let's give a few examples. Example 1 for filling. It could be patient reports cold sensitivity on tooth number 18, caries confirmed radiographically, diagnosis, occlusal decay, and the plan, decay removed, composite placed, home care reviewed. You're done. Now let's go to example 2, crown replacement. Patient says crown on number 14 is loose. It was placed 15 plus years ago. There's decay at the margin. The diagnosis, recurrent decay under crown. Plan, temp placed, final schedule. And then insurance sees crown age noted, diagnosis justified. And that's the difference between paid and denied claim. I'm not saying crown due to decay, but I'm giving all the documentation on how old it is. What is the patient feeling? What am I seeing? What are my radiographs showing me? What are my photos showing me? And then making sure we have those attachments that go with our SOAP notes. So if if the patient is saying that there's pain or something's loose, chances are I'm going to get a good PA. I'm going to get a bite wing. I might take a photo. All those documentation points also go on the claim in order to get it paid. Let's go to a side story here that I had an office where the doctor was great clinically, but unfortunately they wrote terrible notes. We've all been there. I mean, my father did not have the best notes in the beginning, and when he used to write his notes, it was all paper and pen. Honestly, we could hardly read his notes. We had to take, I feel like, a class just to learn how to read his cursive handwriting. But this doctor specifically would just put root canal completed. And that's it. No infection noted, no radiograph findings. And guess what? The denials for root canals was galore. But once we switched him to SOAP notes, the approvals went up almost overnight. So what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your practice, go to the clinical note template section in your practice management software. If you don't know where that is, either click to chat or call your practice management software and ask, see what templates that you have. Compare the templates against our clinical notes blueprint. And that's going to tell you, hey, do I need to maybe relook into some of these notes and make them more robust? Do we maybe need to bring in some sort of checklist for, our crowns are always getting denied. Let's take a look at what evidence we're providing. Your evidence is going to be in your documentation, in your x-rays, perio charts, and your photos. Those 4 things are so important. So if you're seeing denials or you're seeing trends, I want you clinically to go back and look at those areas. Because like I said, this is not just a front office job for dental billing. It is the whole team, the hygienists, the doctors, the assistants, the front office team. Everybody is involved to getting claims paid. And we want to review as a team, what denials are we seeing? So what I like to do is when I'm posting payments, put the denials typically to the side, because what you'll do is you'll post your payments, put the denials to the side so that you can designate time to deal with those denials later. What if we took it a step further? What if instead of just putting the denials to the side, we tracked our denials? We tracked the provider, we tracked the procedure code, and we tracked the insurance company. And then we can see over time, are we getting better or are we getting worse with our denials? Is it a specific provider? Is it a specific code? Or is it a specific insurance company that we're seeing the denials increase or decrease? If we don't track it, we can't pay attention to it like we want to. So track it to see what the story tells. And then once we know the story, let's dig in and start fixing code by code, provider by provider, insurance company by insurance company. And again, you can get our blueprint, the clinical notes blueprint, at withwisdom.com/Teresa. Now let's go into this real administrative burden, because notes really are just one piece. Let's zoom out though on the bigger picture. So Teresa talks all the time, if you've heard her speak, about the administrative burden of dental insurance and billing. And honestly, now it is worse than ever. Insurance has turned into its own full-time job inside the practice. Insurance used to be something you did on the side of all the other million things you do. Not anymore. Verifications are needed before the patient arrives. You need to submit claims with the right attachments, not just blindly submitting claims, but going code by code when you're sending claims. Are we checking our rejections in our clearinghouse every single time that we send claims? Number one reason why you'll see payments come in slower is not having the documentation, but then also not checking our rejections and those denials that never make it to the insurance company. Following up on those denials. So not only do you need someone that is going to send the claims correctly, but then when they come back and they're denied, do you have somebody that's going to follow up, submit the appeals? Do you have somebody that's going to call when you have to call to figure out why is this claim not paying? The portals don't tell you the whole story. A lot of times you have to pick up the phone and call. Are we posting payments correctly so that we're not doing incorrect adjustments or having false credits because of primary, secondary payments that need to be posted? There is a specific way to do it the correct way, so you're not having false credits and you're not over adjusting things that insurance should pay, but it just takes fighting that claim. And then once you go through all that mess, you still have to handle the patients who are angry or confused because, of course, their insurance didn't pay what was expected. So I was with the team last year. They had one person's entire job was to sit on hold with an insurance company. I won't say which one, but that's all she did. She had multiple headsets. I feel like it was 2 phones going at once, and still she was behind. And that is the reality today. And it's not because you're bad at your job or your team isn't doing good enough. It's because the system is broken. Dental billing and dealing with dental insurance is a full-time job in its own, and it takes a dental billing expert. That is why we created what we did at Wisdom, so we can take over all the headaches on the back end, but making sure that it's not just offloading, but it's making sure it's being done with care. And it's being done with people that you trust, people that are an extension to your team, not just someone in the background checking a box. It's really about doing it and going above and beyond like it was our own office or like it was our own family, like it was my father's practice. So that's why what we do at Wisdom, we set ourselves apart from others in the industry because it's all about doing the best that you can with what you have and then improving and growing and making it better and better. So if we see that there's denials coming in, we are going to want to talk with the office, come up with a plan, because again, it's a team effort. Even if you're outsourcing, it's a team effort. It takes more than just who's waiting on hold. It takes the entire team, assistants, doctor, clinical notes, the hygienist, the front office team, everybody that's dealing with dental insurance and those claims is a part of the process to getting it paid faster. And so when your documentation isn't tight, that's when the communication breaks down. That burden multiplies. The front office team gets stuck reworking claims. The patients lose trust and the team gets burned out. When I left my father's practice in 2015 to stay at home when I had my second daughter, I would still, even after leaving, I would still be brought in to help with some of the mistakes. We would have turnover in the office. I would come in and try to clean up, insurance checks that were deposited but never posted, or incorrect adjustments, or a backlog of insurance age claims. Unfortunately, the side I saw to it is patients that would call in and they're so unhappy. If you're doing a write-off incorrectly and you send the patient a bill when really they didn't owe that much money, the patients are going to lose trust and the team is going to get burned out, because the patients then are upset with your whole team. And that burnout not just affects the one team member that's dealing with the upset patients, it really takes the whole office and turns it into just this toxic environment where you feel like you're always being reactive to the chaos. You're always having to catch up. You're always, having to defend what you did because the patients are upset. We don't have to operate that way. Work doesn't have to be something we don't look forward to going to. We can love what we do, be with our patients. We're in this industry to help people. So we can do all of that and outsource a lot of the headaches to a team that we can trust. And then between us all working together, it really makes such an amazing model in today's day and age when it comes to dental billing. But these notes and these clinical notes and the documentation, they really are the bridge between clinical and your admin team. And when that bridge is strong, we all can move faster together. So love to quickly talk about just how outsourcing can help. And this is really where the real relief comes in. So at Wisdom, we act as an extension of your team. We handle insurance verification, claims submission and follow-up, appeals, patient billing, and yes, even the dreaded aging AR cleanup. We had one office that came to us 9 months behind on their AR. I've had some offices come and they haven't sent statements in a year. They haven't sent claims in months. But this one office that was 9 months behind, their doctor told me, Ashley, my team is drowning. And within 90 days, we had the oldest claims resolved. The systems began working. They were in place. And their front office team was breathing again. They weren't chasing insurance anymore. They were greeting the patients with a smile again, not having to fight on hold with insurance companies just to get your patients the benefits that they deserve. That is what makes outsourcing different. That's the difference that outsourcing can make, especially when you find the right company. And here is a loud plug moment for Teresa listeners. We've set up a special page. It is withwisdom.com/Teresa. So again, that's withwisdom.com/TERESA. You'll get the clinical notes blueprint for free, but you'll also see details on a special discount if you decide to partner with us, Wisdom. Because listen, you don't have to carry this alone. You do deserve relief. And I have been in your shoes, and it is not a fun pair of shoes to be in. So if you're feeling like you need that relief, please reach out. We really do want to help you. So let's wrap it up. Getting claims paid, it's a team effort. It is the back, front office working together. SOAP notes are the simplest way to protect your revenue and avoid denials. The administrative burden is real, and it is not your fault. And outsourcing can give your team back time, energy, and sanity. So don't forget, grab your free clinical notes blueprint and check out the discount at withwisdom.com/Teresa. And a huge thanks to Teresa for letting me share this with you. Keep doing the incredible work that you do each and every day. And remember, you deserve to get paid for the care you provide. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk to you next time.
If you learned something new today, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep learning with us.
We're all super busy, so thank you for making time for me today. The show notes will have any links that we referenced in the episode. You can also find links for my book, events, and my online insurance course, Dental Insurance Design and Management. I speak often around the country on management and insurance issues. Come hang out with me in one of my classes. I promise you'll laugh and learn.